I'm CS Daily, the creator of Gene Scavers, and I'm here to talk to you about warband creation, kind of, and my own warbands. Now, my voice is going to be a little rough. I'm just getting over pneumonia, but I wanted to talk mainly about the idea and creation behind it. I have several different characters that are in my warband. In fact, I have a total of 7 figures in my warband. We're going to start with the first, which is the Wasters. Wasters are the cheapest character that, or mutant rather, that a person can buy. They're pretty cheap as far as scrap goes, allowing you to kind of give them enough weapons in order to make a difference on the battlefield. Now, I don't give them armor generally because I usually don't have enough scrap left over, depending upon how much you agree to start off with as scrap goes. This is, I believe, a 700 scrap warband, so not a lot of scrap. It's just enough to kind of get a beginning start going. With this, though, I have 3 Wasters. One of the Wasters has a net pistol and a bone sword. His name is Vand. And then I have 2 other Wasters, Bob and Durg. They have bone tendrils and both have laser pistols, so they're armed the exact same way. Laser pistols are one of the better, cheaper options. They're not as good. They're not as cheap as a net pistol. Net pistol is extremely cheap, but they're the better, cheaper option that gives them a little bit of punch for the Wasters, especially because Wasters are actually better at shooting than they are at close quarters. The Wasters with the bone tendrils have a little bit of extra fight in close quarters if they get into hand-to-hand combat. They get to roll some extra dice because of their because of the multiple tendrils essentially, and the Vand, if he gets into hand-to-hand combat, he has a bone sword. He's better against opponents that are stronger in melee, ones that get to roll more dice because of the sword's ability, which is usually parry. That increases the negative critical threat range of attacks that are directed towards him, and hand-to-hand combat, of course. Next up, I have Doghound. Doghound is a scaver, so he's not a waster. He's a scaver, so he's more expensive for base cost, and has a larger range of the types of stuff that he can purchase because they all have limits on what they can purchase. On top of that, being a scaver, he can have up to 2 mutations. I've only given him a single mutation because that mutation is pretty expensive, and it's called Monstrous Face. Monstrous Face basically allows him to instill fear into characters within a radius whenever he activates. So every time he activates, he's targeting every opposing character in his aura, his radius, and trying to instill fear and make them run away. It's happened on several occasions throughout playtesting, and it also has failed multiple times. So it's not a guarantee, but when it works brilliantly, which is kind of how I like to play. He has a laser pistol just in case he gets shot from a distance, and he has heavier armor, be it so that way he maybe can survive enough to get there. Next up is Mentag the Mind, also a scaver, and only has a single mutation as well. His mutation is the bulbous glowing head, which gives him psychic powers and turns him into a scion. Mentag the Mind was able to get acidic acceleration, which allows you to target terrain on the field and essentially turn that terrain into a giant pile of acid. So characters that are inside of it will take acid condition tokens as well as be inflicted with biochem damage, and that can be pretty nice. Now granted, it has a limit as far as the size of terrain that you can target, so you always make sure that you have varying sizes of pieces of terrain. He also has acid bolt because he's allowed to have 2 psychic powers. He has acid bolt as an additional power. That's a ranged psychic power with an effective radius of 3. This is your radius template, and if you target somebody within that effective radius of 1 through 3, then it's going to increase his chances of hitting. Next up, we have my boss, and we're going with him first for a reason. My boss is Nolan Vinegard. He is a Gene Lord. Gene Lords can have up to 3 mutations on creation. Now, they have to take a minimum number of mutations depending upon the number of mutations that other characters take. So, example, if a Scaver has 2 mutations, your Gene Lord must take 2, because no one can have more mutations than your Gene Lord. So, with that being said, my Gene Lord has 2 mutations, because my mutations are pretty low throughout. And even his mutations aren't extremely powerful. My more powerful mutations were kind of given to my Scavers. His mutation is cytoplasmic blood, which gives him regen, and a better regen during certain kind of weather, acid rain, and radioactive field. It's kind of to give him a little bit of survivability. He also has decent armor, and I gave him a toxic needler, which deals biochem damage at range, although it's a pistol. His other mutation is a tentacle whip hand, so he's only able to hold a single-handed weapon, which is generally going to be a pistol or another close combat weapon. But for this particular purpose, he's got a toxic needler. The toxic needler is an expensive pistol that deals 2 different types of conditions when it hits, and deals biochem damage, which is the least common damage in the game. And generally, most people have a worse save against that, depending upon what they are. Some creatures have better biochem saves. The Tentacle Whip it's not a very strong mutation, but it does have Shirk and Reach too. Shirk basically allows you to ignore parry and trap, and Reach allows you to basically attack somebody from the distance of a speed 2 movement template. So I can attack and hand-to-hand, count as being in hand-to-hand, and attack them without being stuck or trapped in hand-to-hand. So that's kind of a good benefit. You just got to be careful. And plus, with the condition of constrict, it can kind of keep your enemies at bay a little bit. So he's kind of a very nuanced character. Again, he's not an extremely powerful Gene Lord, especially compared to my friends who play and other individuals who have played it as well. For Gene Scavers, for players to be able to take Wasteland monsters, they need one of 2 things. One, a mutation that gives them access to a Wasteland monster, or a specific type of warband, which is found in the Clan Warfare book, that automatically gives them that, but they take also some detriments in other places. Now, with that being said, because I've taken cytoplasmic blood as a mutation for Nolan, it opens up being able to recruit Phytogeigen wasteland monsters. So I chose to take a Hydragora, named it Seymour, which is only slightly clever. The Hydragora is a pretty slow but deadly menacing monster. It fires an acid spray, which it uses to spray, and can attack obviously a large area. It has adaptive camouflage, so it can conceal itself in woods, and you should always have some kind of woods on your terrain, just depending on the tabletop, depending on if you're also running a campaign and the scenario that's going on and everything else. So there's a lot of that, but if you're playing just one-off games, you should make sure that you have some kind of foliage throughout. But for the most part, that is my warband. This is a 700 scrap warband. So this has been a short video for Curse Play Games, and specifically talking about Gene Scavers. I appreciate you all tuning in to listen, and and for those who are back in the Kickstarter already, I appreciate it. I know it's not looking super bright, but I ain't that worried about it. It's my first time ever jumping into Kickstarter. It was very interesting to learn how to do it. I'm not sure if I still done it right quite, but we'll see. But I'm more interested in this next year and all the cons that are kicking off, and hopefully getting to see a whole bunch of people and play a bunch of Gene Scavers and some of the other games that I have as well. So thank you all very much from both me and the rest of the crew at Curse Play Games, which is an extremely small crew, so it's basically like one and one other person. So, but greatly appreciate it very much, and we'll see you nasty scavers out on the battlefield.